You been taking illegal substances?
No, it's nothing like that. I've got Tourette syndrome. I can't help what I say.
Is that right, aye?
Half-price heroin!
You're being detained.
Fuck off! Cunt!
Quiet!
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by Almighty God
that I will tell the truth.
that I will tell the truth. You're a cunt!
Mr. Davidson, please leave the court. Mr. Davidson!
Cunt! Fuck! Cunt!
Leave!
It's 2019 in Edinburgh, Scotland. John Davidson is moments away from receiving one of the highest honors imaginable, an MBA awarded by the Queen of England, and the pressure is crushing him. He's convinced he's going to embarrass himself, right up until a woman named Dottie steadies him and pushes him forward anyway. Inside the grand hall, a full orchestra swells as John enters, the room on its feet, the Queen standing at the front in complete silence and authority. Then the music cuts, and the next moment,
Fuck the Queen!
this recap is based on a true story. Cut back to 1983. In the small town of Galashiels, Scotland, a young John is out delivering newspapers before heading home to his parents and siblings. He's got a football match later that day, and his father, David, plans to be there after work. On the field, the moment comes. John steps up, catches a penalty for his team, and the sidelines erupt. His teammates swarm him, and in the stands, his father watches on, unmistakably proud. After the match, John's mother, Heather, takes him shopping for new school supplies. Secondary school starts in 2 weeks, but John can't stop replaying the game. His father's pride, the cheers, the idea that a professional goalkeeping trial might actually be possible. On the ride home, John admits he's nervous about starting school, but Heather keeps it simple. Keep your head down and work hard. Later, John heads to the river and fishes alone, quiet and lost in his thoughts. First day at Galashiels Secondary School. The principal addresses the freshers, calling this the beginning of the journey that will decide who they become, and reminding them it's his duty to see they leave having reached their potential.
With regard to your manners and your personal conduct, I demand nothing but the highest standards. Do you understand?
Yes, sir.
At recess, John sits with his friend Murray, relaxed, charming, greeting the girls at their table and flirting without effort. Murray backs him up, and for a moment, John feels on top of things. Back home, there's more good news. A football scout from Berwick Rangers is coming to watch John play at his next match, and his father is thrilled. But the next day at school, everything shifts. While reading in class, John starts fumbling his words. His neck jerks involuntarily, again and again. Murray asks if he's okay, as laughter ripples through the room. As the twitching continues, the teacher snaps at him. John asks to go to the toilet, and once inside, the jerky motions continue as he waits for the bell to ring. Out in the hallway, a group of bullies trail him, mocking and mimicking every movement. John begs them to stop, then finally breaks away and runs all the way home. At dinner, the twitching hasn't stopped. When his father asks about it, John waves it off as nothing. As soon as his mother presses further, John leaves the table and disappears into his room. Later, Heather checks on him, and John tries to explain the jerks in his neck and eyes, but she dismisses it, telling him it's all in his head and that he'll be fine by morning. Not long after, John meets up with Carrie, the girl he was flirting with, for a movie date. But she arrived with her mother, who immediately interrogates him, lays down rules, and makes it clear there will be no funny business. Inside, Carrie's mother keeps them under constant surveillance. Then, without warning, John turns to Carrie and screams.
Shut for that! I'm sorry.
He apologizes and grabs Carrie's arm, but she hits him, calls him a pervert, and bolts. As Carrie's mother tears into him, a security guard steps in and throws John out. The next day at recess, John sees Carrie retelling everything to her friends and quietly moves to another table. The principal soon joins them and asks how they're settling in.
How are you finding the school dinners?
Right. I'm sorry, sir. I didn't mean to, sir.
What's your name, young man?
Davidson, sir. John Davidson, sir.
The principal asks which hand he writes with, then delivers 3 lashes to his palm in his office. He chooses not to contact John's parents for now, but warns him he will next time he's called into his office. With a bruised hand, John struggles to put on his goalkeeping gloves before heading to the pitch. During warm-ups, the coach quickly notices him favoring one hand and twitching his neck nonstop, but John insists it's nothing. The coach reminds him the scout is coming and instructs him to use both hands as John's tense father watches from the sidelines. As the game begins, the scout arrives, and the moment he sees the twitching, he asks if John is disabled, but the coach just brushes it off as nerves. John soon concedes a goal, kicking the ball into his own net, and his teammates explode. Furious at wasting his time, the scout walks away as John's father shouts from the stands that his son is throwing everything away. Back home, David keeps on yelling that John acted like a clown, ruined the chance of a lifetime, and embarrassed them in front of a scout who came all the way from Barrack Rangers. Meanwhile, John sits in the bathtub, twitching, nursing his bruised palms as the shouting bleeds through the walls. At dinner, the twitching continues under his father's glare. When his mother tells him to stop, he manages it for a moment. Then,
Nonsense starting a bit.
Oh, John! What the hell?
Heather quickly instructs John away as David snaps that he's had enough and storms off to the pub. Once he's gone, Heather orders John to eat by the fireplace from now on.
Get down on the floor, John! Face the fireplace. If you want to spit, you spit in the hearth.
His sister tries to move to his side, but Heather tells her to stay put. Later, John goes fishing alone, just like always, the twitching still relentless. Soon after, a fight breaks out at school with students crowding around. In the center are John and another boy. A teacher soon pulls them apart, and the other student claims John swore at him. But John says he couldn't help it. The boy doesn't buy it, punches John in the face, says he couldn't help that either, and calls him a freak. They're both sent to the principal's office, where the other student receives lashes first. But when it's John's turn, the principal lowers the belt and instead warns him that if this continues, he'll be transferred to another school. He demands John admit the behavior is just for attention, but John insists it isn't.
Think very carefully, Mr. Davidson. One last chance.
I can't help it.
Now, there's nothing we can do for you.
Hey!
What is the matter with you, boy? If you do not stop this behaviour, prison waits. And if not prison, something far worse. I'll be in touch with your parents shortly. Out!
You cunt!
Mr. Davidson. Before you leave,
Later at dinner, Heather tells her children their father is leaving and isn't coming back. When John asks if it's because of him, Heather doesn't respond. After dinner, John heads to the river and walks straight into the water, hovering on the edge of the unthinkable. Sirens cut through the night as an ambulance rushes him to the hospital. There, John breaks down, telling his mother he feels like he's going mad, that he wants to self-delete, and that he drove his father away. But Heather holds firm, promising they'll get him help, and that he's going to be okay. 13 years later, John is still living at his mother's house. Heather is used to the constant tics now, but they still wear on her. While out shopping, John runs into Murray. Heather doesn't recognize him at first, he's grown, but it's his old friend from school. Murray's been living in Australia and only just returned because his mother fell ill.
I'm sorry about that, Murray.
Fancy a wee drink or something, John? Have a wee catch up?
No, he can't drink, Murray. He's on medication.
We could maybe just go for a walk or something.
Wank. Yeah, that'd be good.
You like that, John? A walk with Murray. Give me a break.
As they walk, John finally explains his condition. It's Tourette syndrome, an impulse in his brain that forces him to say and do things he shouldn't, and there's no cure. When Murray asks what's next, John admits he wants a job. But who would hire someone like him? John then shifts the conversation, asking Murray about Australia. Murray reveals he visited the Great Barrier Reef, worked on a sheep farm, and had all sorts of adventures until he came home when his mother got diagnosed with liver cancer and was given only 6 months left to live. After their walk, Murray invites John over for spaghetti bolognese, but John declines, saying he needs to get home for his meds. Right then, Murray's mother calls him inside from the window.
What's wrong with my spaghetti bolognese?
I'm sure it's great, I just need to be getting home.
What's your name?
John.
John, get your ass in here.
As John slowly approaches the door, she steps out and introduces herself as Dottie. The next moment,
You're gonna die of cancer.
John apologizes instantly, but Dottie just smiles, says it's the most honest anyone's been with her in months, and invites him in. Inside, the table is set. Everyone waits, except John is stuck in the bathroom, ticking uncontrollably, even breaking part of the mirror. Downstairs, when Dottie asks where he is, Murray explains he's on medication. Meanwhile, John keeps trying to fix the cracked mirror, fighting the tics as the moment stretches on. Later, Dottie goes upstairs to check on John, but only finds the shattered mirror. Outside, John is struggling to light a cigarette, his tics relentless. Dottie finds him there, and he immediately apologizes for the mirror. She then asks what medication he's on. When John lies that he isn't, Dottie reveals she's been a mental health nurse for years. When she asks how things are at home, John immediately starts to tear up. Gently, Dottie asks him to come back inside and eat. Inside, John eats by the fireplace while Dottie watches with concern in her eyes. Later, as he helps with the dishes, he thanks her for the food, but keeps ticking, swearing, and apologizing again and again. That's when Dottie snaps. If he's going to be coming around, he needs to stop apologizing for something he can't control and stop policing his language in a house where everyone understands his condition. John agrees, but immediately ticks and smashes a plate, then keeps on going. Not long after, Dottie tells her family she's invited John to live with them. They think she's lost her mind, but Dottie reminds them she has 6 months left, and she can either sit around feeling sorry for herself, or she can help this young man. Soon after, John joins them for a game of blackjack and immediately blurts out that he has 2 aces. Dottie tells everyone they'll pretend they didn't hear it and start playing. When John returns home, he tells his mother he's moving in with Murray's family. But Heather bristles, saying he's being naive, that they just want someone to look after Dottie.
Is that what this is all about? Is this her idea, is it?
No, it's what I want.
But you're needed here, John. Your brother and sisters are gone, your dad's left, and I'm not getting any younger.
John adds that he's stopping the drugs as well, insisting Dottie knows what she's doing. But Heather explodes, saying he's worse without his medication and that family has no idea how hard it is to live with him. Seeing his mother's frustration, John calmly says they both need a break. Not long after, John paints his new room with Murray. As they work, John admits he's never been to a gala, or really anywhere at all. Murray promises to take him everywhere once he's off the meds. They end up fooling around, painting each other and laughing. Later, John shops with Dottie and admits he's extremely ticky as he tapers off the medication. But there's an upside. He's sleeping better, getting fewer headaches, and feels better overall. When Dottie steps to his right side, John suddenly hits her. He apologizes immediately, reminds her not to stand there, and they laugh it off. On the way home, they run into Heather. The moment she sees John, she sighs, clearly irritated by the sight of her son. Dottie introduces herself, but Heather ignores her and scolds John for not visiting. John says maybe next weekend, ticking nonstop. Sensing the tension, Dottie sends John to grab a few things so she can talk to Heather alone. As soon as he's gone, kissing a lamppost on the way, Heather says she can tell he's off his medication, and Dottie explains he's coming off it slowly. Heather quickly admits any patience she had for John was exhausted years ago, and asks if Dottie is really prepared for the punching, spitting, and swearing, especially in her condition. But Dottie says they're helping each other, and that they love having him around. After a beat, Heather asks her to make sure John visits more often, then leaves. Once John is finally off his medication, he celebrates, dancing in the living room, because Murray is finally taking him clubbing. On the way, Murray tells him not to do anything weird, and predictably, John starts getting sturdy. At the door, he touches the bouncer's nose, but somehow gets inside anyway. On the dance floor, he loses himself in the music, even flirts with a girl and offers to buy her a drink. While Murray is getting the drinks, John ticks and accidentally pours someone else's drink. When he tries to apologize, the man punches him in the face. John snaps back, hammering him with punches until the guy's friends swarm in and block him off. Murray tries to pull John away but can't before the bouncer storms over and throws John out. Moments later, the police arrive and arrest him. As Murray watches, he tells John to call Dottie when he gets to the station. Locked in a cell, John keeps ticking non-stop, grinding on the officer's nerves. Once he's released, he excitedly tells Dottie about the girl he danced with, but Dottie cuts in.
Well, I hope she was with it, because the other lad's dad's a solicitor. They're taking it to court. They said we'll know in a couple of months. John, we can't keep letting you get into trouble like this.
She decides the best way to keep John out of trouble is to keep him busy and asks if he wants a job. John says he'd love one. Dottie explains that Tommy at the community center is looking for an assistant and that she'll put John's name down, but John doubts anyone would hire someone like him. When interview day comes, John freezes in the car, terrified he'll embarrass himself. Dottie talks him into going inside and quietly tells the receptionist to cut him some slack. He's nervous and might be more extreme than usual. The moment John walks in, he knocks over a cup and apologizes instantly. He's led to another room where Tommy, the caretaker, is waiting. John immediately offers to help arrange the chairs, which delights him. Tommy then gives him a tour of the center, starting with the main hall.
Right, I'll give you a rundown of the place.
Give me a cock in my hand. Sakes.
As Tommy continues the tour, John keeps on ticking, but Tommy pointedly ignores it. They end up in Tommy's office for the most important part of the interview, making tea. As John prepares it, Tommy explains he needs someone young and reliable, someone who can open up and close up when he's not around, especially with his hospital appointments because he hasn't been feeling well. John says he's good with his hands, that he did woodwork and metalwork in school, and that he's eager to learn. When Tommy tastes the tea, he tells him it's the best cup he's had from any applicant. He then asks if John has any questions, and John mentions his court date in a few months and that he'll need time off. He then asks about the ticking and the swearing, but Tommy pretends he didn't notice the ticks and they both laugh until John suddenly hits his dog.
Just a wee word of warning, John. You ever do that to my dog again, and I'll tear your fucking heart out. Understand? All right, Rosie?
Afterward, John gets a newspaper from a shop and stops to read it. While he does, a provocatively dressed girl walks past him. John suddenly calls her a slut, then immediately tries to apologize, but she doesn't want to hear it and walks away. That night, John comes home to a surprise. Everyone's waiting. Tommy called, and John got the job, but he can't believe it. He thought the interview went terribly. Then Dottie shares her news. The hospital called, and she's no longer dying of cancer. The whole family piles in, hugging each other. Dottie then hands John a wad of cash and tells him to buy whatever he wants so they can celebrate together. At the restaurant, John passes the girl from earlier without noticing her. Food in hand, he heads back out, but is suddenly ambushed by two thugs. They wrestle him to the ground, punching him over and over, demanding to know who he called a slut. Then, one of them pulls out a crowbar, and the beating continues, brutal and methodical, until John is left bloodied and broken on the ground, while the girl watches, then turns and leaves with them. John wakes up in the hospital with Dottie at his side. She says she has to call his mother, but John asks her not to. He then asks about the job, but Tommy already told Dottie he can take all the time he needs. The position is still his. That's when John finally breaks, crying, as he tells Dottie he's exhausted, tired of all of it. Sometime later, John has started at the community center and is helping Tommy prepare for Christmas. Tommy praises how perfectly John has lined up the chairs, and John admits that if he doesn't get things exactly right, he feels like something bad will happen. Tommy then tells him that if people don't understand Tourette's, nothing will ever change, and that John can't keep living for what others might think.
Because I don't think Tourette's is the problem. I think the problem is we don't know enough about Tourette's.
Afterwards, John asks for time off for his court hearing, admitting he's terrified of what will happen. At the hearing, John is called to the stand to take the oath, but he can't repeat the words without ticking and swearing.
My lord, if I may, Mr. Davidson on occasion shouts things uncontrollably. Based on personal experience, I can assure you he is well versed in all manner of racist comments, many of which not even I have encountered, but all completely out of his control. We lodged production number 71, detailing a condition known as Tourette syndrome.
Mr. Davidson, the oath one more time, if you please, exactly as it is pronounced by me.
On the second attempt, he tries to hold it in, and moments later,
You're a cunt!
the judge immediately orders John out of the courtroom, and Dottie walks him out as the other side laughs. As they wait in the lobby, Tommy arrives, and Dottie explains what happened inside. Moments later, Tommy is called to testify. He tells the court that John is the best employee he's ever had, then does his best to explain Tourette's, describing how, 2 or 3 times a day, John's right hand suddenly jerks to within an inch of his face, completely beyond his control. He adds that no one would fake a condition that leaves them beaten with a crowbar, mocked, humiliated, and ridiculed since school.
Now, I know John's a proud young man, and he wouldn't like me using the word disability, but can I just ask, if a blind man walks into a bar and crashes into another guy, would it end up in court? That young man over there would not harm a fly. He is the nicest, kindest, most respectful young man I have ever met, and he makes a damn fine cup of tea.
Spunk for milk.
Spunk for milk.
After the hearing, all charges are dropped, but Tommy isn't surprised. The sheriff even told him the case should never have gone to court. A reporter then asks Dottie if she's proud of John, and she admits she's always proud of him. When asked what's next, Tommy says John is heading back to the community center with him to clean out the drains. Sometime later, after finishing the drains, John goes to visit Tommy, who had a hospital appointment that day. He kisses a lamppost as usual, knocks on the door, and when there's no answer, steps inside only to find the dog alone. John enters another room and finds Tommy dead. Not long after, the police arrive, and John tells them what happened. At Tommy's service, John waits outside, ticking non-stop so he doesn't disrupt the ceremony. After yet another unspecified stretch of time, Dottie picks John up for lunch. Sitting on a bench, she asks if he'd like to move into the council flat nearby. He's lived with them for 5 years now in the same small room, and she worries it's held him back. They love him, but he needs independence. John agrees, and soon he's shown the apartment and notes there's no fireplace, but could use a bucket instead. Soon after, he moves in with Murray's help. When it's done, Dottie says goodbye, telling him the house will feel quiet without him. She then asks him to come by for Sunday lunch, and John promises he will. Once he's alone, the ticking continues. Outside, a group of kids ask about it, and John explains it's a medical condition. They then ask where he lives, and before long, they're partying in his flat. One of them asks about the metal bars, and John says they're to stop him from jumping. He then offers John work, then backs out, saying his condition might be a problem, but John insists he can do whatever job he's given. Soon after, John waits under a bridge. A man soon arrives and hands him a package, and John tucks it under his jacket and heads off. As he walks, he keeps on ticking.
Half-price heroin! Hey! Hey!
When John spots cops approaching him, he pretends to browse shop windows, then turns around. But they call him back, asking if he's on something. John says no, then ticks that he's got drugs under his jumper.
Get your hands at your jumper. Now! What's that? What is that?
Crack cocaine, you cunt! Half-price heroin!
That's being detained.
Toss! Cunt!
Quiet!
When John wakes in a cell, Dottie is there with the arresting officer. The package wasn't drugs, it was sugar. But the officer warns him they might give him the real thing next time. After his release, Dottie takes him home and suggests they both read everything they can about Tourette's. At work, John is soon called into a meeting. He ticks that he's about to be fired, then freezes as they tell him they're looking for a new caretaker, Tommy's position. John blurts out that no one's better than him, then apologizes instantly, but the man agrees. There is no one better. He offers John the role, along with the caretaker's accommodation, Tommy's old place. John accepts and shows Dottie the house. She likes it, says Tommy loved the quiet there, and jokes that the crow outside is his spirit animal. John says he might even get a dog now. Years later, John is at work with his dog when a couple arrives looking for him. They lead him to their car and explain their daughter inside also has Tourette's. She's seen doctors and specialists, but none of them live with it. They think John can help. He tells them to open the door, and as he gets in, he restrains his right hand to stop himself from hitting her. Then they both start ticking, rapid, uncontrolled, and brutal.
You're a wanker! Brody's got a little cock. I've got a big fucking rabbit in my ass.
Your dad wasted sperm.
Your dad's a cunt.
Afterwards, they both laugh and head elsewhere to talk. Outside the center, John tells her about his dog, Tilly, and how she helps him understand himself. When John asks if she's okay, she admits she just needed to let everything out back in the car. She's used to suppressing her tics, depending on the day. John explains that the hospital sends people like her to him sometimes, but he doesn't know if it actually helps. But she says it did. She even thought he was a specialist, but John admits he's not. He's just read a bit. She then reveals he's the first person she's ever met with Tourette's. Before she leaves, John tells her she can message him on Facebook anytime she needs help. Later, at Tommy's grave, John tells him about the couple and their 24-year-old daughter, how she'd never met anyone else with Tourette's. He remembers how Tommy always pushed him to help others like him. And now, after meeting her, John thinks he's finally ready to do just that. Soon after, John hosts Tourette's Weekend right there in Galashiels, an event built specifically for kids struggling to cope with the condition. He ushers them in with their parents, settles them into their seats, and as he begins to speak, the room fills with tics, everyone ticking together. John tells them this might be the first time they've ever met someone else with Tourette's, and that's okay.
Today, you are the majority and you're not the minority.
Throughout the weekend, adult volunteers share tips and techniques to help reduce tics. John speaks privately with the parents, telling them this weekend is just as much for them as it is for their children. He admits his own condition played a role in his parents' split, and urges them to stick together and support one another. When asked about romantic relationships, John is honest. It's been difficult for him, but wanting that for their children is natural. In the end, he comes back to education, repeating the words Tommy once gave him. The problem isn't Tourette's. The problem is that people don't know enough about Tourette's. The sooner these kids are accepted and understood, the sooner they can live completely normal lives. As the children play nearby, John and Dottie share a quiet moment, smiling at what they've built and the lives they've changed. Later, while walking Tilly, a police car pulls up and the officer calls John by name. He steps out and asks if John remembers him, but he doesn't. The officer introduces himself as McCullen, a cop who knew John back in the 90s, back when few people understood Tourette's, and John wasn't treated kindly. McCullen explains that once he was promoted, he made it a point to find John and invite him to speak, to educate the entire police force about Tourette's. From there, John begins speaking everywhere. Police departments, secondary schools, and hospitals, slowly changing how people understand the condition. Not long after, John receives a letter from Buckingham Palace and immediately calls Dottie. Cut back to 2019. John approaches the Queen to receive an honor for his services to people with Tourette syndrome, while Dottie watches proudly from her seat. The Queen places the medal on his suit and congratulates him, and applause fills the hall led by Dottie. John's sister is there too. They hug, and when he asks about their mother, she says she's doing well and suggests he visit her. Soon after, John does. Over tea, he shows his mother the medal. After a moment, John explains he only had 3 tickets for the ceremony and his sister lived closest, but she just says she understands. Then she tells him she read about it in the paper, how John said he didn't want anyone to go through what he went through.
Face the fireplace.
Heather apologizes for not being good enough, only that she tried her best, but John tells her he knows. He admits he doesn't even know how he would have coped in her place or his father's. Heather admits there was a light at the end of the tunnel. She just wishes she'd known it back then. With this, they share a long, quiet hug as she apologizes once more. In 2023, John boards a train to Nottingham University to take part in a scientific study on median nerve stimulation for people living with Tourette's. It's not a cure, but early findings suggest it may help manage symptoms. At the university, he meets Barbara Morera. She fits him with a neuromodulation band, sets up the device, and asks him to test it out. As John walks through the campus, he notices something different. Quiet offices, steady steps. He even enters a library for the first time in decades, a place that's been impossible for him since his Tourette's began. He moves through the aisles, taking it all in. When he returns, Barbara asks how it felt, but John tears up. He hasn't felt like this since he was 14. Calm, alert, relaxed, no anxiety, and no tics. Just one small tic in the corridor, far less intense. Barbara then tells him that out of 135 participants, around 59% are responding the same way.
I really don't know what to say. Can I keep it?
Not yet, sorry, but good news is you can take it home for a few days. We need you to make some notes, how you feel, how you sleep.
I stopped asking if there was a cure, 30 years ago, because the answer was always the same.
It's not a cure, but it will give you some relief when you wear it.
Following this, John boards a train back home and even strikes up a conversation with a woman sitting in front of him. They joke about a man who'd been snoring earlier, and they both laugh. Then, they talk about music as the train speeds off into the distance. John continued returning to Nottingham to test the medical device. Today, new technologies, medications, and therapies help many people living with Tourette's, but the most powerful support remains education, understanding, and acceptance. John still lives in Galashiels, now with his black Labrador Suki. If this story stuck with you, take a moment to learn more about Tourette's, or share this with someone who might need to see it. Understanding spreads faster than ignorance ever should.
Davidson.